And we'll get started with some introductions from the Career Center. So my name is Annie Lux-Goebel. I oversee our advising and career education for the business, entrepreneurship, and consulting career community. Business really encompasses any and all academic backgrounds. So I know we have a lot of those represented on the panel and in the room. So you may see me in the classroom, you may meet with me for one-on-one advising or at events like this. And then Danielle, I'll turn it over to you and Flavio.
Flavio, you want to go ahead?
Sure, thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Flavio. I'm a sophomore majoring in international management, and I work with Annie and Danielle at the Career Center as the business entrepreneurship and consulting career community peer ambassador. It's a mouthful, but essentially, I'm here to help you guys out at any point of your career journey, and I'll be moderating the Q&A section for today. So feel free to drop your questions on the chat, and I'll be trying to keep an eye out on those as well. Go ahead, Danielle.
Hey, everybody. Danielle Crocker here. My pronouns are she, her. I am the Associate Director of Employer Engagement. And so that means that I work with employers who are interested in recruiting our business, entrepreneurship, and consulting students, as well as those within the tech and design career community. So, and I have the pleasure of working with Annie and Flavio, who do a wonderful job with our students and are a great resource. So thank you all for coming today and conversation.
Awesome. So we always like to start with a little profession overview to set the scene. So I'm going to let these folks do most of the grunt work in terms of telling you what they do every day. But when we think about marketing communications careers, what I encourage you all to do is come into this panel with an open mind in terms of, how can my academic background match my title, which then in turn matches my function day to day. So a lot of times students will ask, well, can I go into marketing pathways if I'm not majoring in marketing? Or maybe I'm doing a double major, marketing and finance, for example. What are my options? So I encourage you all to think about what you've studied in the classroom and the skills that you've gained there or are gaining there. What skills have you gained from other experiences, maybe outside of the classroom or in a different major if you're not majoring in marketing or studying marketing or communications or an adjacent field? And then where do I want to go? So these panelists are really prepared to speak to that question, either through their own career experiences or questions that they have on the job every day that they address through upskilling, reskilling, all of those types of things. So I'm going to let them build on that profession overview throughout the course of the panel. But I want to give us just a minute, get it out of the way. Does anyone have any questions about the format before we dive right in? Doesn't look like it. So I am going to ask these folks to introduce themselves with a few prompts, and I'll put them in the chat for our panelists and for our attendees just so you can see. Some of these pretty straightforward, where did you study? What did you study? But these other two questions probably look a lot different for each person in their room. So I'm going to go around our room here and ask you to introduce yourselves with where did you study? What did you study? How did you discover marketing pathways, either your particular pathway that you're in right now or others? And then of course, where do you work? What's your title or what do you do? So I'm going to go ahead and start with Therese because you're closest to my head on Zoom.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for having me again, Annie, Danielle, and Flavio. I'm really pleased to be here today. And it is my pleasure to share a little bit more about myself. So my name is Tyrese Leverty. I use he, him, his pronouns. And I studied at the University of Minnesota Twin Cities Hubbard School and studied as a major journalism and professional strategic communication. I also studied for minors, art and interdisciplinary design. So a lot is always what I like to end that with. And discovered marketing and career pathways for me actually before college. I had the pleasure of taking a lot of classes and participating in activities like DECA and even starting my own business subcommittee in high school. And that really gave me a new perspective on the possibilities that I could then study in college. So that was super exciting. And that coupled with my love for telling stories and media formats and people, culture, all of those types of things, that led me to the job that I have today, which is an assistant brand planner at an advertising agency in the Twin Cities called Carmichael Lynch. And we work on several large brands like Subaru, Bush's Beans, Hostess, and others.
Awesome, thank you. And then Marissa, you are next.
Sure. So hello, everyone. My name is Marissa Fries. Thank you all for having me here, and all the DePaul students. I'm a fellow Blue Demon. It's very great to be here. I'm very honored to be sitting here and speaking to you all today. So again, my name is Marissa. I did study at DePaul University. I was class of 2021. I was a double major in honors marketing, the IME program, and also in finance. How I discovered marketing pathways. I always knew that I wanted to go into business from a pretty young age. It wasn't until my uncle, who worked in corporate America, and he kind of told me, he's like, I think you would be really good in marketing. And I decided, like, after my first class at DePaul, I really just fell in love and decided to go into the IME program. And that's really where I was able to kind of dissect all the different fields of marketing and really discover what I wanted to do. And leading into that, I discovered that I found a love for market research and analytics. So currently I am an associate research analyst at Mintel here in Chicago for Mintel's Comfort Media. So yeah.
Thank you. And then Karen, I'll have you go next.
Great. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Karen Lee, and let's see, I studied at the University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign for undergrad, business administration and marketing. And then also I returned in 2013 for a master's in health communication. And as far as discovering my pathways to marketing, it started in high school. I went into high school wanting to pursue neurology and in medicine, started working in retail, of course, my after school job, and found myself asking a lot of questions about why do people buy certain things? Why is the store merchandise this way? Is the music, like, just questions about, like, how does this environment lead people to make purchasing decisions? Even though I don't think I called it purchasing decisions back then, but slowly began to creep more towards that interest in more consumer behavior. And so instead of applying to college to study science, I applied to be a business major and entered into the College of Business my freshman year, and then just kind of followed that track throughout, focused on marketing. As far as where do I work now, I am currently a marketing director at Alliance RX Walgreens Prime. So I never gave up my affinity for healthcare and medicine, with the exception of 3 years when I worked more so in consumer PR. I have been health adjacent my entire career, whether it's super complex like what I do now in the world of specialty pharmacy, or doing advertising to physicians, but always in that healthcare space. So looking forward to talking more about my career and hearing from you all this afternoon.
Thank you. And then we'll have Caitlin go next.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. I'm Caitlin Peterson, and apologies, my camera is not working right now. So classic kind of Zoom environment lifestyle. Rolling with that though. So where did I go to school? I had an untraditional path to marketing. Actually, I started school at Concordia College in Moorhead, Minnesota. And that was my parents' alma mater. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to go to school for or where I wanted to go to school. So that seemed like a good segue just into the college path in general. So I tried that out for a little while and it didn't go so well. So I actually took some time off and went back to a community college in White Bear Lake, Minnesota, and ended up getting my associates there. I actually focused on global studies and more just history at that community college before going to Colorado State University in Fort Collins, Colorado, to kind of finish up my undergrad. So I did receive my undergrad from CSU, and I studied communication studies and sociology. Sociology was always really interesting to me, and I really enjoyed analyzing data and just looking at different trends, how people view the world. And I've also worked in just a lot of different industries in my lifetime. So at that time, I was in the restaurant industry, and I applied a lot of things from the restaurant industry to kind of sociology, and also tied in a lot of communication tactics to that. So I kind of feel like I was a lifelong student in a way, just learning from my careers at the time. And I actually met someone working at my restaurant job who worked for an email marketing company in Loveland, Colorado, who kind of helped me get into the digital marketing field, get a foot in the door. And from there, I've kind of continued down an email specific marketing path. And I now work for a digital marketing agency based out of Denver, Colorado, called Blue Moon Digital. And Blue Moon was actually acquired by Merge last August. Merge is a bigger digital marketing agency. And for them, I am an email strategist. So again, focusing really solely on email as my specific channel that I specialize in. And I look at different things for brands like The North Face, Coach, Kate Spade, really retail-based sellers. So that is my focus at Blue Moon. It's been a great career path so far, and looking forward to getting into that and talking a little bit more about retail and email marketing specifically with you today.
Wonderful. And then last but not least, I'll let Brad tell you a little bit about himself.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this this panel and to spend time with you. I am a double demon. So I got my undergrad from DePaul through what was then the School for New Learning, now the School of Continuing Professional Studies. I then went on and got my MBA. This makes it sound like it was a very tight time frame. There's a lot of time between these things. And I actually started my undergrad career at Kalamazoo College in Michigan. I, like a lot of folks on this call, have gone down a lot of different paths, and I continue to today. So I got started at Kalamazoo College as a theater major. I moved to Chicago before finishing school, became a professional actor, went back and picked up my degree. And along the way, I just kept falling into the marketing pathway. Doing a lot of guerrilla marketing, putting animal heads on my head, going out on the street and making a big scene, and but also developing websites and building out content and things. Right when the internet was really just starting to be. I continued to be a professional actor, and now I teach at DePaul as well. One of the things that I found going back and getting my MBA was I really enjoyed and got a lot out of being part of a learning community. And so you can do that on either side of the spectrum. And I really find this relationship to be one that's exciting, get a lot of ideas and passion from the students that I interact with. And I'm in the School of Continuing Professional Studies. So it's a lot of folks who are already in the middle of their careers and have a lot of life experience and wisdom to bring to the table and to the conversations. And so it's more of a collaboration than anything. But marketing is something that I've done my whole life, for sure. I'm a storyteller. So the theater piece, that bleeds directly in, has complete overlap with what we do as marketers and trying to communicate a message to an audience and make sure it's been received in the way that we intended it. And I really love it. Today, I'm a director of marketing for a software company that's B2B. And we do everything you do under marketing except for commercials. We don't do a lot of radio, TV sort of things.
Wonderful. Thank you all. I'm going to ask you now to again do a little bit of my job for me and describe your title in terms of the functions that you complete every day. Now, I know every day looks a little bit different for you all, but our first question, can you just explain your job title to us more in terms of function rather than maybe the semantics of it? So anything else you want to add just to demystify some of this? Like, for example, Brad, you mentioned like B2B. If you want to, demystify any terms or even like debunk any like assumptions you might have with title, like Therese, I think yours would be a great one to dissect a little bit. Feel free, I'll let you kind of take this as you will. But I'll go in order again. Therese, if you could start us off, that would be great.
It would be my pleasure. Yeah, I will admit to you all that I also did not know what a brand planner was before I started this role. So that completely makes sense. If that's you, hopefully what I say next can help you out. So another role that is really similar to mine, just not in title, is called a strategist. So if you've ever heard of someone say, oh, I'm a strategist, especially within the field that I work in, which is advertising, we do really similar things. It's just some minor differences. And in order for me to explain what I do, I think it's helpful to take one step back quickly and to explain the advertising pipeline. We work with clients. I've mentioned some like Subaru, H&R Block, et cetera, and they've come to us with business problems that they feel like they need help with, right? Things that they can't solve on their own. And usually that relationship is monitored by an account specialist, somebody who is specialized in working with them as an account. But as soon as they identify what they need, they then bring it to me, who is next in the pipeline. And as my team takes a look at what they say, we then start to ask questions and then dig and do some research into culture, into their category, their competitors, into them as a company or their brand, the things that they've done in the past, to say, is that problem really what you're struggling with? Or is it maybe something else? And if so, then how do we make sure that we're addressing that? What does that look like? Who are we speaking to? All of these things. So we're basically information gatherers. We're getting as much information as possible to then kick off the people who actually make our work. So the creatives, the strategists, the video producers, all the people that then create the things that go out into the world. So I like to think of myself as like, yes, I'm understanding like the plan or the problem and then telling others, here's the best way to go forward. Hopefully that helps demystify my job.
Awesome, thank you. And then Marissa, how about you?
Sure. So as an associate research analyst, I basically, I analyze data and trends to develop insights and produce recommendations to marketers across different industries such as financial services, telecom, and insurance. So Mintel, our kind of slogan is what consumers want and why. Comper Media is a subsidiary of Mintel, and we focus on what marketers want and why. So instead of relating to the consumer directly, we are speaking in terms, or we're speaking directly to brands and their marketing professionals to kind of help them develop insights and trends, what's going on in the market. So we take all of these insights and trends, all the data that we get is derived from multiple platforms that we have. So we have a bunch of different platforms that we use to kind of take this data and analyze it. You know, we also have multiple panels around. Mintel is a global company, so we do have panels in almost every country, and through that we are able to get a lot of information on different types of direct mail, different types of emails, as well as looking at social media and kind of the marketing that brands are doing there. Mintel also, we produce surveys to clients or to consumers, and these consumers take a look at these surveys, answer them, and we can use that data further in our reports that we write. So again, like Teresa said, and many other panelists have said here, I do consider myself a storyteller. That is what I do. I take all of these insights, the data, the numbers, and I'm able to develop it into a story to tell to these brands and these marketers. My work is consistent a lot on Excel and PowerPoint, in addition to the multiple platforms that Mintel does have. My main function in my job is to write reports for these different clients that we have. I also take a lot of different requests from clients. I do a lot of different client presentations where I'm able to actually dive deeper into the insights that I have discovered and present them in front of our clients who may have further questions. Before working at Mintel, I was I was in marketing at marketing coordination at a local mortgage firm out here in Chicago. And through that, I really discovered that I do love real estate and mortgages. So I am now deemed the mortgage and loans specialist here at Mattel's Comfort Media. So which is really exciting and really great. So any questions on mortgages, I'm your girl.
Wonderful. And then Karen, how about you?
All right. So I feel like I would have answered this question very differently, like even a few years ago. But largely as the marketing director in my role, what I do falls largely into, I would say, 3 buckets. So one of them is around patient engagement. And that is a lot of internal work with our teams around patient experience, because we don't actively market or try to convince people to fill their prescriptions with us, because a lot of that is determined by your insurance company or your doctor, because again, a lot of these medicines are for very complex, chronic and rare conditions. So it's not the same as when you just kind of decide to go into Walgreens and say, you know, I have whatever medicine. Sometimes it's a little bit different. But what we do need to make sure of is that our patients who have come to us, that we are keeping their experience top of mind. We're making sure that they have information in their preferred language, that that information is accessible based off of literacy levels, and just making sure that as we build our digital experiences and things like that, my team is keeping an eye on lens, what our patients need. Do they need how-to videos, what have you? The other part would be more in our business to business space, or B2B. We have a lot of clients and that are pharmaceutical companies, that are health insurance companies. And so how do we make sure that as we build out new solutions, we are, I guess, in a way, building the right story around them? So how do we position them in a way that makes a difference for those clients, that is what they want, is what we've heard from them. And so in that world, I do spend a lot of time concepting right now with my teams. So when the product team has an idea, before they get going, asking a lot of like, why does this matter? Which can make you not a favorite person of your product teams, but it's a very important question that I enjoy asking as a marketer. So why does this matter? What's different about it? And really working with our teams in the upfront before they get things into the pipeline. And then the last part of what I do is a lot of just team engagement, coaching teams. I have a team, managers, and then some specialists, and then also a lot of cross-functional work, as well as keeping some connectivity with the Walgreens marketing teams that also kind of support this line of business. So largely steering the actual work, but also I truly spend a lot of time just building relationships, solving problems, identifying resources for my teams who are trying to actually get the work out the door, and just kind of making sure that I'm keeping the work moving along.
Thank you. And then Caitlin.
Yeah, thank you. So as a strategist, I'm glad Tyrese brought that up. I do work pretty closely with a lot of other teams and a lot of other people internally. And a lot of roles are closely related in the marketing field, as you'll find. So as a strategist, I manage multiple clients. And specifically, since we're talking about email, I'll go into some details about specific things that I manage and take care of on the email side of things, either on behalf of clients or with assistance from clients. And then I also have an example to show you to kind of connect everything together. So I assist in the development of an email calendar. So the type of email marketing that I'm in, I work with a lot of large retailers. So it's not just the one-off kind of spammy quote emails that you might be thinking of. If you look in your inbox and you see a lot of promotional emails from these larger brands, you can tell that their emails are executed really well. They're very professional looking. There's not mistakes. There's no grammatical errors. Those are really important things to people in my industry. And those are things that we take a look at. As a strategist, I work really closely with people who do execute and deploy emails for these larger brands. So to ensure that everything is kind of up to standards, I review the emails. I review the reporting of those emails each week. So how did the email perform? Were people clicking on links in the email? How does that stack up to also then the reporting that you're seeing on other channels as well? So How did your social channels do? How did they contribute to your overall revenue for the week? But really, with a focus on email, I just look at the email side of things and provide statistics reporting for the email side of a program and how that did. And I share that information with stakeholders from these brands, who then pass that directly to senior leadership, owners, CEOs of all these larger brands. So it is kind of a big responsibility, and there's a lot of moving pieces with that. There's a lot of really sharp deadlines as well. But it's also a lot of fun to know that you are kind of the voice behind some of these email programs, and you get to make decisions strategically to help support and stand up these email programs and make sure that they're generating a lot of revenue for these brands. You might look at your inbox and feel like it's very saturated with emails, and you might think this is an outdated form of marketing. I don't like this. You know, you might feel like emails are spammy, but in reality, email marketing does still drive the bulk of most revenue for brands. So opposed to any other channel, social, paid media, things like that, email is still a huge driver of revenue. So it is still very relevant. Some other things that I do, I recommend design optimizations that will be supported by testing strategies. So if we do see that maybe a major call to action in the email isn't being clicked on, we want to understand why, because that's also equating to revenue that's being lost for a brand. So we then want to understand, okay, how can we test this call to action and make it better, make it stronger? Is it the verbiage? Is it the color? So really nitty gritty things like that. Those are suggestions that I would make to a brand so that they can test that the next week. And then I bring those results to the brand and say, this is the result of this test. Let's either run another test to determine something else at a more granular level, or let's implement this change based on this finding. So those reports are weekly, monthly, quarterly, and also annual. You're presenting them to brands, to stakeholders. Then you're also looking at communicating performance trends across the email marketing industry, any issues that need attention. For example, we've had a lot of bot signups recently. So a lot of bots are going to people's websites and are falsely signing up for welcome emails to get a coupon. That's depleting sort of a stash of coupon codes that retailers have. So really kind of getting specific there, but let me go ahead and share my screen quick and show you how this all syncs up. So this is just an example. This is a separate inbox that I have dedicated just to kind of client communications. It's not my work email, and these aren't specifically my clients. These are also competitors. They're also people from the same vertical, so from retail, that we just look at and analyze. But let's say we're looking at this Wrangler email. This is something that our execution team might have put together to send for this client if this is a service that this brand uses. And let's say this portion of the email isn't getting a lot of clicks. We're not getting a lot of traction here. We want to understand why that is. So we might suggest, testing a GIF here rather than static images. We might suggest putting in something dynamic. So it's showing a specific product that a user may have browsed before. So really getting a lot of aspects into an email. And I wanted to show as well that email marketing is more than just emails. It's more than just sending batch and blast type promotional emails. There's a lot that goes into the strategy behind an email, why, and then also communicating that to the people that need to have that communicated to.
Thank you. And then Brad, how about you?
Yeah, thank you very much. I probably overlap a lot with Karen, particularly the last pieces that she was talking about. I am the director of marketing. I started off, I might not look at, I'm only 12 years old into the career here. So I've been doing marketing officially for 12 years. When I started off, I was an associate. I came in at this particular company, specifically looking at social media. Twitter was something new and exciting. Facebook was still picking up steam and things of that nature. And so I came to a company that wanted to see where the opportunity was there. And as an associate, you're sort of the pointy end of the spear. Like you're actually doing things on a day-to-day basis. You're going in, you're writing things, and you're putting that in. And what does that do? What does that look like? Then I became, one of the things I learned is we didn't really need social media for B2B, business to business. It wasn't really a hot spot. Facebook, Twitter, I was talking to a lot of people like me who we were all looking for the same person, but they weren't there. And then there was one channel, LinkedIn, where business to business really does have some traction. And so we started narrowed things down, and I realized what we really needed was content. So I expanded, I created a webinar program, I created a content marketing strategy, just did all, and I, from an associate, I moved to a manager. And as a manager, you have a little more responsibility. You're a little bit further back on that spear. You can point it in different directions. You can, have some control over that. As a director today, what I do is I'm more like the driving instructor. So if any of you learn to drive in a car where the instructor was sitting next to you, they had a little brake, they were close enough they could grab the wheel if they needed to, right? They'd be like, oh, let's not hit that, let's make a little swerve. But your hands are not on the wheels. You are directing programs. You have managers and associates in place who are responsible for the day-to-day and carrying out the strategy. My job is to understand what the strategy is from a corporate level and where we're trying to go. And I'm responsible for the outcomes, and I'm responsible for reporting back the success of our programs. We also, so I'm over a number of different programs, but in my company, a director could be responsible for just one program. For example, we have a director who's over global events, right? And they just spend their time creating virtual and live event programs. For me, I'm over a number of different programs, and again, making sure that the people there who are managing and the associates in that have what they need, have the resources, have the understanding of what we're trying to accomplish so that they can get that done. And then reporting back up the chain of command that we are hitting our targets, where we may need to make some adjustments and things. And then the other big thing that I do is have conversations across the company. So I am meeting cross-departmentally with product, with sales, with product marketing, with different groups to see what are their challenges, what are things that they're experiencing, where there might be opportunities, and then bringing that back to the marketing team and saying, hey, there's an opportunity here, or we need to switch up. We're doing all this marketing for a product that sales doesn't want to sell. So let's not spend any more time doing that. That's a large part of what I do. It's very much relational based. With the people that I work with, I'm looking at the problems that we have at every level, associate, manager, director. You're a problem solver, right? The question is, are you solving little problems? And by little, I don't mean not unimportant, but are you solving smaller confined problems, or are you solving larger problems? But everyone is solving problems along the way. And one of the things that I recommend for folks is no matter what level you're at, solve the problem that's in front of you, whatever you were hired for. And then if you can squeak out a little more bandwidth, go up a little bit, talk to your boss. Hey, do you have any other problems I can help you solve? Is there something else? Or identify something. You've got to hit the thing that you were hired to do, but can you move up? And then that keeps going. So right now I'm director of marketing, and I'm talking to my boss saying, what else do you have on your plate? What can I take off of your plate? And that's how that movement happens.
Awesome. Great advice. Flavio, I will turn it over to you. I know you've got some questions for these folks.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing your diverse experiences and backgrounds. It just kind of goes to prove that you really don't need to major in any specific field to go into marketing. So kind of going along with that, what would you say are some of the skill sets and attributes that would make you the most successful and empowered within your role? I'd like to hear from Marissa and then Karen as well.
Sure. So kind of some skill sets that I think make me feel really empowered in my role is one is being in a workplace that wants to see you succeed, that you're surrounded by people that want you to grow, like Brad was mentioning, talk to your boss, talk to your peers, get to know everyone so that you can learn all the different fields and all the different problems that you can solve to help you move up. So I think for me at Mintel, the culture is exquisite. I couldn't ask for anything better than a wonderful team and people that want me to grow and want me to succeed and want to help me do all of those things. I would also say one skill that I think is really important, especially in my job, is being bold. So when I was in my interview here at Mintel, the director of research told me after my final presentation that she goes, "That was bold." And I didn't know what that meant. I was like, oh, that might not be a good thing. But after I got hired, I learned that being bold is something that Mintel really values. And being bold is being able to take risks and to trust your expertise and to be confident in your role and to, especially as an analyst, I always say it's like we're predicting the future almost. So it's not definite of what could potentially happen next in the market. So being bold, taking those risks, it's okay if you're wrong. This happens everywhere, like take chances, take risks, be confident in what you're doing. I also would say that there is no such thing as a stupid question. In IME, that's something that we learned. It was called a blue chip question. You would say, oh, blue chip. And that just meant, I know that this sounds like a stupid question, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Ask questions. I think that's one of the biggest things that has helped me grow here. And in terms of like what helped me get to where I am in college, definitely talking to your professors. That was something that really helped me grow, is to kind of get a professor that could almost act as like your mentor and someone that can help guide you, that you can ask those questions to. I also I studied abroad, which was great to kind of get a well-rounded global experience. I would also say DePaul does a really great job of giving you the opportunity to explore different fields or anything through electives. And that I know my freshman year, I took a class on screenwriting. It was pretty random, but I learned that that's how I found out I love to tell stories. I love to write. I love to do all of these different things. So again, marketing, you don't have to be a marketing major. You could be in creative writing. You could be anywhere in business. You could be in psychology, anything. Marketing is a very vast field that you can really take any kind of skill set and fully explore the whole field.
Right, and to build off that, so marketing is a very vast path, and there's lots of things that one could do. For me, I found that the skills that make me feel most or have best equipped me for success and made me feel empowered were a few things. So one, having very strong communication skills. It is your job to sell ideas and to cut through the noise and the clutter, and that happens with your internal teams as well as the actual audience that you are selling to. Part of that strong communication piece is about asking questions, but more specifically learning to ask the right questions. I think when you have people that you need to get answers out of, you guys can go, right 5 miles to get the answer, or with the right questions, you can kind of get there a little faster. So learning what are the right questions in which situations, and a lot of times that's based off of who specifically you are asking. I would also say anything about curiosity, which kind of goes to the question asking portion. Learning to manage up is something that is very important. And I think Brad touched on it a little bit in his recent response about solving the problem in front of you and then going up a level. Like that is incredibly important. And it's not just important for you, but I think there's a level of empowerment for me, especially early on in my career, feeling like, yes, I helped my manager solve this problem, right? It made me feel I was already valuable, right? I told myself I was valuable every day, but then I started seeing more and more of that. And then they wanted to give you problems that they were working with and noodling with. And then lastly, I would say the last skill that made me feel empowered was being able to put pieces together. I love that. I enjoy it, whether it's like an actual physical puzzle, word puzzles, Wordle. But I think especially in kind of any career, especially when you find yourself in larger organizations, knowing what different teams are doing and being able to see through all of that and think through it and kind of spend some time noodling on things and puzzling it together. I think those are some of the skills that have made me have definitely proven to be successful, but have also made me feel empowered at the same time.
Thank you so much for sharing. So along with your skills, it sounds like a lot of your success is attributed to the connections that you've been able to establish. So this is a question for Caitlin and Marissa. How have you been able to build relationships and develop this support system within your field?
Sure. So I can kind of touch base on that. So Mintel, when I first started, we were assigned an onboarding buddy, kind of like a buddy system. And throughout the entire onboarding process, that person that you can go to ask all those questions to and learn everything. But this person, my onboarding buddy, I ended up developing a really, really great professional relationship with her. And she has now become one of my mentors here. And I've seen her grow and succeed in the 9 months that I've been in this company, and she wants the same thing for me. So I think that's like the biggest thing for me is find someone that you can trust, that you can go to help you grow personally and professionally. I also say be yourself. I think that's really, really important to just be yourself, show your personality. And communicate as much as you can, communicate in meetings, develop relationships with your team. We all at Mintel, there's also a really great, we are hybrid currently, but we do use Slack to kind of communicate when we are working from home. And that's been really great, just having that kind of Mintel's culture kind of bleed into Slack, and to be able to kind of communicate effectively while being remote and also while being in the office. It's a really great balance. So that's kind of what I would say is, especially find someone that you can consider your mentor. Use the Ask Network at DePaul. It's really, really great.
Yes, thank you for plugging the Ask Network. Caitlin, would you like to add?
Yeah, thank you. I would say just kind of more broadly, don't count out anyone that you meet just day to day as someone that might be able to be a support person in your field. You never know when you're checking out at the grocery store who might work somewhere else, or if you meet a friend of a friend and they work in the same industry as you, that could be a great connection later on. So I would just suggest don't ever count out a connection that you meet. This bar guest that I had when I was serving at a restaurant ended up being a sales trainer at my first ever job, and that's how I got the job. So that's how I got into the email marketing industry. And because I made that connection and just always said, hey, how's it going? Whenever I saw him, that led to a job for me. And then that led to another career in an agency. So I would say just approaching everyone with a positive attitude and a smile, and just understanding that anyone could be a resource to you.
Great advice. On that note, looking at the time here, I think this might be our last question that we can ask before we open it up to the chat. But on the note of being your authentic self, for Karen and Tyrese, how would you navigate your intersectional identities and lived experiences in business, careers, especially marketing? And how can you provide advocacy and allyship within your field?
Tyrese, do you want to start, or do you want me to? I'm happy to go.
I'd be happy to start. Yeah, this is a really excellent question, and one that I would have appreciated hearing someone talk about when I was coming into the field. So I'll try to do it justice today. I look around and I recognize that there are not a lot of people who share the identities that I share. And truthfully, a lot of times that can be really challenging, not only to feel like you are left out or to feel like you are constantly in the minority, but also to understand the relationship that you share with others is a little bit different and always will be, just because of who you are and the identities that you carry with you. Whether they be your choice or your background or not, regardless of what they are. So I think that that is really important to identify. And it was pivotal for me to have a mentor who suggested to me that when I'm searching for jobs or for places or people to work with, that I need to prioritize people who are going to support me and who are going to uplift me. And that's my number one deciding factor. And I took that advice and will probably keep it for the rest of my life, even though this is my first job out of college. I think that's really, really important for everyone, regardless of your background and regardless of your identity, to make sure that you're at a place that supports you and is uplifting you to get to where you want to go. And I hope to do that exact same thing as I continue to navigate what's ahead of me in my future. And this is one great example of why I love doing panels and love giving back and speaking at events like these, so I can make sure that other people have access to the things that I have.
I love that. I'll add to that by saying within the walls of businesses and offices, looking for work families are really important people that you, even if they're not on your direct team, sometimes that's better, but just others in your space. I mean, and this applies to everyone, is the receptionist, it's someone like work families have truly been successful and a valuable piece of finding that welcoming space, especially early in my career. I would say now I've been able to find those things, especially in a larger organization like Walgreens or Alliance or Rex, through employee resource groups, mentoring new employees as they come in. And then also through things like volunteering and advocacy and charitable giving. That has been a way, especially earlier in my career, for me to begin to come outside of what I felt like a box had to be for myself as a marketer, right? You're volunteering, you're giving back. Oh my God, we have students coming in from Chicago Public Schools. I was a CPS grad, you were, I was, right? And so beginning to kind of scooch out and into that fullness of who I was outside of work. And then I think as other people were looking for, different things or had questions about different audiences or consumer groups, right? Like being able to step in and share some of those experiences. But it does take time. And I think as long as everyone remembers that your lived experience is valid, it may not be always the right place to blast and go big in that moment, but it matters, right? And so just never feeling like it doesn't, and the opportunities will present themselves. And if they don't, then you find an organization that will appreciate that.
Thank you so much. That's some great advice. And yes, I also love that term of work family. I think that's something that everyone should really kind of seek out. Like I said, I think this is a good place to kind of open it up. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to raise your hand, drop it in the chat. We got one right here. So Aziza would like to know, what are some negatives of your job? Thing that you would find frustrating or boring or challenging, and how do you confront them? So if you could get someone to speak on that, be pretty awesome.
I can take that one.
Thank you, Caitlin.
Yeah, so there are definitely things about my job that I found challenging and also frustrating. I just started this job back in August, and in the marketing industry, we kind of refer to working at an agency as being part of this agency lifestyle. And it's very demanding. There are a lot of responsibilities. There's a lot of stakeholders that are expecting answers to questions on a very short timeline. So as I was mentioning with emails, we send out a group of emails for 1 week, and then right away on Monday morning, stakeholders from the company are wanting to know how that email performed. If it didn't perform well, they want to know why. They want to understand the story behind the data and understand, is it because we did this and changed our creative? Why didn't this do well? So sometimes when you log into work on a Monday morning, you have maybe 2 hours at the beginning of your day to look at some reporting results and figure out, okay, shoot, this email did not perform the way we were expecting it to. Why didn't it? And sometimes there's a lot of data that you need to dig into across multiple platforms to get to that answer. So it's time consuming, and you might not always be able to take the time that you would like to thoughtfully deliver the right answer to the client. And you know that they have a deadline too. So it's kind of like this constant time crunch, and having to answer to someone can be stressful and challenging, but it's also rewarding when you're able to help string that story together.
Thank you. Would anybody like to add on?
I'll just mention one thing. I think one of the things I find most frustrating is when you are having to go against your better instincts, right? You are executing something that is not your call to make. And how do you do that? How do you do that with integrity? And so it pulls together some of the things that have already been talked about here. I think you have to be authentic as a marketing person. And one of the things that I try to do with anybody in the company, but certainly when I'm managing up, is my job is to give the best advice, the best information I can to my boss or to anyone who asks for it. And that's what I try to do. I try to be honest, direct, straightforward, kind, compassionate. I will say to my boss on a regular occasion, I completely disagree with that. I think that is a bad idea. I do not recommend we go that way. But if we're going to do it, I'm going to do my best to make your vision come true. I'm going to try to help you prove me wrong. And so that's, I think at every step, you want to try to find agency for yourself. I think when I have gotten the most frustrated is when I have taken my own agency out of the equation. So whatever the challenge is, it's very easy to point the finger at someone else or to a system or something and say, that's why I can't be successful. And that may be true. I'm not saying that there aren't systematic problems and issues, but that's a really hard place to operate from. So in any situation, if you can find a way to get agency back, and that may be leaving that organization, finding another work family, finding another place to be, but at every step along the way, try to find a place where you can move forward with a positive intention rather than being reactive and operating from a place of negativity or yeah, there's a lot of privilege in what I'm saying, but I have found myself frustrated, and it's usually because I have decided that I can't do something or I don't have a move to make.
Awesome. Thank you all for that insight, for your tips, just for taking the time to chat with our students today. I know we have a few folks who will be joining asynchronously since we are recording today. I am going to pause our